everybody, it's Kathy Champion again from Random Acts of Crafting, and welcome back to my craft room. I had mentioned that I was going to do a video, and give me just a second to see if I can get seated. Still struggling on one leg. But anyway, in my last video I had told y'all that I was going to try to break it down measuring. And I had another request this morning after someone watched my video on the box card that they struggle too with measuring. And I know this is a struggle for a lot of crafters. So what I did is I took an 8-inch piece of paper and I cut it by 2 inches, I believe, 2 by 8. And what I did is I used my scoreboard and I divided it into 1-inch pieces. Now, why I did it like this is I wanted each one of these to represent an 1/8. So this is 1 inch. If you can grasp the concept of the breakdown between 0 and 1 inch in the 1/8 increments, then you're pretty much good to go with most any card making or any measurements that are given to you. And so what I did is that first line is going to be your 1/8. So when you are looking at the end of your ruler, and I'm going to lay my Tim Holtz ruler right here, this very first line is 1/8. The second one is 2/8 because there are 8 8s, because if you remember back in school, 8 over 8 equaled 1. That's because that 1 is broken down into 8 equal parts. Think about a pie, and if you sliced it in, let's see if I can kind of draw a pie, and I'm not real good at drawing, but we'll pretend. Here's our pie, and let's say we're going to cut it in half. Then we got 1/2. 1/2 and 1/2 equals a whole. Now if we cut it again, we have 1/4 because the whole is broken up into 4 pieces. So this is a 1/4, that's a 1/4, that's a 1/4, and that's a 1/4. 1/4, 2/4, which is a half, 3/4, or a whole. So, but let's say we decide to cut it again, like so. Now we have 8 pieces of pie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we have that pie broken down just like we do here. So that would be 8 slices of pie. So 8 out of 8 equals 1. So I broke this down like our ruler. And if you count along here, that's 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, a whole. So basically that's what I have represented here, and I'm going to see what I can do about scanning this down, and I will have this available for anyone who wants it. All you have to do is email me, and my email address is Kathy, and this is all lowercase letters, Champion 31155 at gmail.com. So if anybody wants a copy of this, if you will email me, because I have not set up to do PDFs yet, but if you will email me a request for this, then I will just send this directly back to you. That's one good way of getting it. So if you can't do it that way, I'll see if I can figure out another way to get this to you. But getting back to this, 1/8 is your first measurement on your ruler. And then 2/8 would be your 1/4 inch, because 2/8, if 2 will go into 2 one time and 2 will go into 8 4 times, that's 1/4. If you notice that every other one of these is your 1/4, your half, and your 3/4, which these are measurements that most everybody understands. It's when you get into the 3/8, the 5/8, and the 7/8 that I think it confuses people. So again, just looking at this, your first line on your ruler or your scoreboard is going to be your 1/8. The next one is going to be your 2/8 or 1/4. Then if you count over all the time, 3 counts over is going to be 3/8, and 3/8 is a measurement that's used quite often. And then 1 more over, and a good way to remember your 3/8, it's 1 mark to the left of your half. 5/8 is 1 mark to the right of your half. And 7/8 is 1 mark before you get to your 1 inch. Now this will work no matter where you're at on your ruler. So for example, if somebody tells you that you need to do 3 3/8, there's your first line. So that would be 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. So at this point, this would be 3 3/8. So once you grasp this, the 1 inch breakdown, you should be able to apply that anywhere on your ruler. And I'm hoping that I am making sense with this. And if you have any questions concerning the breakdown of the 1/8, now there are some rulers that are broken even further into 16ths, but very seldom in card making will you ever have to know any more than your eighths. Very, very seldom. And if you do run into that point, you could use the same diagram and half each one of these lines and make it. Basically, I would go in and on the 1/2 inch, I would draw a little tick mark, like right there and there and there and there and there, there and there and here. So now if I drew lines down, that would make this 16ths. And basically your hole is still a hole. It's just breaking it down into how many pieces of the pie did you try to cut. So I dare say you will ever need the 16ths, but if you do, you can definitely always break it down. 1/16, 2/16 would be 1/8, and so forth. So it's once you can grasp the concept of that in your brain, and some people have more difficulty than others. My youngest daughter has always battled fractions. Always. She gets decimals, which I find that hard to comprehend because I find fractions easier than decimals. So I think, I do know that 3/4 is 0.75, and a half is 0.50, and a quarter is 0.25. That's simple math right there. But when I get into the 7/8, the 5/8, and the 3/8, I'm lost as far as my decimals go. But I do know that on my ruler, if I count 3 lines over, that is 3/8. If I count 5 lines over, that's 5/8. And if I count 7 lines over, that's 7/8. And if you can grasp this, then I think your measuring will become very easy, and hopefully that will cut down on your dilemma or your fear of trying projects because you don't know. Now, even on your scoreboard, here is my scoreboard, and I know that different rulers will be different for different people, but like I said, this particular scoreboard is wonderful. And if you don't have a scoreboard and you need to purchase one, I would highly recommend getting the We Are Memory Keepers for the reason that it is broke down 8ths, quarters, 3/8, half, 5/8, 3/4, 7/8, and an inch. And then when you get to 1, it's broken down the same way. 2, it's broken down, so forth, all the way over to your 12-inch. And even there, your last line is 12 1/8. So this scoreboard makes it very, very easy to grasp the 1/8 concept. But again, like I said, if you want a copy of this, I will be more than glad to do a screenshot. I will email it to you. I will even if you want to send me your cell phone number, I can do a photocopy of this and give it to you that way. If you could print this out and have it on your craft table, it wouldn't be any time at all that you would be able to read any ruler, anywhere, anyhow. I'm going to pull out a different ruler. This is my my T ruler which is great. This one doesn't have any markings on it. But if you look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, this one is broken down in 16ths. So the second one would be 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, a half, 5/8, no, 3/4, no, that would be 3/4, 7/8, and 1. So any ruler, you can look at it and you can still break it down, but this one is broken down into 16ths. I don't do metric. They were trying to push metric when I was in school, and that's been many, many moons ago. I didn't grasp it then. I don't grasp it now, but I do know my 8ths, my 16ths, and I know how to measure using the lines on my ruler. So this is what I'm hoping this tutorial on measurements will help you with. If you have any questions on this, or if you want to request, please don't share your email on the YouTube comments. Email me directly at kathychampion31155@gmail.com, and that way I can reply to you. I will reply to you immediately with a copy of this, and hopefully that will help you in being able to comprehend this. Thanks so much for tuning in once again. I hope this tutorial has been a help, and as I always say, God bless, and I hope you have a wonderful, blessed day. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.